Fightbox for the PlayStation 2 is a game that serves as an intriguing case study within multimedia project failures and how ambitious concepts can fall flat when poorly executed. Released in 2003, Fightbox was developed by the Codemonkeys, a British studio that had a long history in the gaming industry but was not particularly well known for delivering high-quality titles. The studio had previously operated under the name Runecraft, a name that might ring a bell for gamers who remember the late 1990s and early 2000s, a period during which Runecraft developed a series of low-budget games. This studio shift from Runecraft to the Codemonkeys did not mark a significant improvement in their output quality, and Fightbox is a prime example of this.
The game was developed in conjunction with the BBC, which had a vested interest in the project as Fightbox was more than just a game. It was a multimedia endeavour tied to a BBC television show of the same name. The BBC, seeking to capitalise on the growing popularity of video games, particularly among younger audiences, envisioned Fightbox as a cross-media hit. The idea was to merge the excitement of gaming with the interactive potential of a television show, creating an experience that would engage viewers both on screen and off.
The Fightbox TV show was the BBC's attempt to bridge the gap between traditional television and the burgeoning world of video games, which were increasingly capturing the attention of younger audiences. The show was a game show aimed primarily at children and early teens, featuring contestants who designed and controlled digital warriors, known as warriors, and virtual battles. The show aired in 2003, at a time when the BBC was experimenting with various formats to appeal to a generation raised on video games.
In Fightbox, participants would enter a virtual arena where their warriors would engage in combat, navigating various challenges and opponents in a bid to become the ultimate champion. The concept was novel, tapping into the excitement surrounding games like Tekken and Street Fighter, while incorporating elements of customization that allowed viewers to feel invested in the outcome. However, despite its innovative premise, the show struggled to gain traction, partly because it was ahead of its time in trying to fuse television and interactive media, and partly because the execution left much to be desired.
If the idea behind Fightbox was innovative, the same cannot be said for its gameplay. The game was plagued by clunky mechanics that made for a frustrating experience. At its core, Fightbox is a fighting game, but it suffers from a lack of polish and finesse that would have been necessary to make it enjoyable.
The fighting controls in Fightbox are basic, bordering on primitive. Players have a limited set of attacks at their disposal, and none of them feel particularly satisfying to use. Punches and kicks lack impact, with weak sound effects and stiff animations that fail to convey any sense of power or momentum. The combat feels sluggish, with unresponsive controls that make it difficult to pull off even simple moves. This is exacerbated by the game's underpowered attacks, which give the impression that the player is fighting with padded gloves, rather than weapons or fists of fury.
The animations in Fightbox are similarly stiff and awkward, further contributing to the game's overall lack of fluidity. Characters move in a jerky, robotic manner, and there is little sense of connection between the actions a player inputs and the on-screen results. This disjointedness is one of the game's most significant flaws, as it robs the player of any sense of immersion or satisfaction.
In addition to its fighting mechanics, Fightbox also includes some platforming sections, which serve to highlight just how poorly designed the controls are. The game was clearly not built with platforming in mind, and attempting to navigate these sections is a lesson in frustration. The controls are imprecise, making it difficult to judge jumps or avoid obstacles. The camera angles often work against the player, leading to frequent falls and repeated attempts to clear even the simplest of challenges. These sections feel tacked on, as if the developers were trying to add variety to the gameplay, without really considering whether it fit within the game's framework.
Visually, Fightbox is an ugly game. The graphics are dated even by 2003 standards, with a muddy color palette that does the game no favors. The arenas are bland and uninspired, lacking the detail and creativity seen in other fighting games of the time. Everything in Fightbox looks as though it has been coated in a layer of grime, with textures that are blurry and indistinct. The overall aesthetic is one of dinginess, which, combined with the game's other flaws, makes it a chore to look at.
Character designs in Fightbox are equally unattractive. The warriors, which were supposed to be the stars of the show, are instead awkwardly designed, with a mix of exaggerated proportions and unattractive features. Rather than feeling powerful or imposing, the characters come across as cartoonish and unappealing. There is little to no charm in their designs, and players are unlikely to feel any attachment to their in-game avatars.
The game's graphical shortcomings are not helped by the poor animations mentioned earlier. Characters move stiffly and without fluidity, which only serves to make the visuals even less appealing. The muddy color palette also extends to the character models, which blend into the equally drab environments, making it difficult to distinguish between fighters and their surroundings.
Fightbox is a game that is best remembered as a cautionary tale in the annals of video game history. Its development was driven by a desire to capitalize on a multimedia concept that ultimately did not pan out, and the result was a game that was half-baked and poorly executed. Despite the BBC's involvement and the ambitious premise, Fightbox failed to make a lasting impact, either as a video game or as a television show.
The game is often cited as an example of how not to develop a game, particularly when it comes to integrating different forms of media. The concept of Fightbox, a television show that allows viewers to interact with the video game in real time, was ahead of its time, but the technology and design expertise required to make it a success simply weren't there. As a result, Fightbox serves as a reminder that even the best ideas can fall flat if the execution is not up to par.
In the years since its release, Fightbox has faded into obscurity, remembered only by those who either played the game or watched the show during its brief run. It remains a footnote in the history of the PlayStation 2, and a testament to the importance of quality in game development. While the BBC's attempt to merge television and gaming was ambitious, Fightbox ultimately stands as an example of what can go wrong when ambition outstrips execution.